Daf Yomi tractate Bava Batra, page 95b, top of the page, with words Zeh Otsar Sheshanu Chachamim B'Mishnatenu. Razvid concludes, and this is the case of the storeroom being the cellar that the sages taught in the Mishnah. It is clear from this Braita both that it contradicts the suggested addition of the previous Braita, and that the Mishnah concerns a case where one specified which wine cellar he was selling. Rather, as indicated by the Braita, the Mishnah also concerns the case where one says to the buyer, I'm selling you this particular cellar, and because he specified a particular cellar, the buyer accepts upon himself the possibility that up to 10 barrels per 100 might be sour. Kashya, ze. Having retracted the addition to the first Braita, the Gemara asks, if so, it is difficult to reconcile the first Braita, which rules that if the seller specified that he was selling this cellar, he must provide wine that is all of good quality, with the second Braita, that of Razvid, which rules with regard to the same case in which the seller specified he was selling this cellar, that the buyer accepts that up to 10 barrels per 100 may contain souring wine. Loi kashya, hod amar le mikpa, hod lo amar le mikpa. Razvid, amar le mikpa braita, no amar le mikpa. The Gemara answers, this is not difficult. This Braita is referring to a case where the buyer said to him that he needs the wine for cooking, and therefore he requires good quality wine, whereas that Braita is referring to a case where the buyer did not say to him that he needs the wine for cooking. I would think just the opposite. Cooking is less quality, because it just goes in the food. I don't know, maybe. The Gemara elaborates, the second Braita taught by Razvid is referring to a case where the buyer said that he needs wine for cooking, whereas the first Braita is referring to a case where the buyer did not say to him that he requires it for cooking. Hilkach, Martev Shel Yayin, Amar Lo Lemikpa, Notein Lo, Yayin Shekul Yafe, Martev Zeh Shel Yayin, Amar Le Lemikpa. Notein Lo, Yayin Shekul Yafe, Mukabel Olav Eser, Kosisot, Lemea, Martev Zeh Shel Yayin, Amar Le Lemikpa. Notein Lo, Yayin Anik, Hanim Kar Bachanut. The Gemara concludes, therefore, the halacha is that if one said that he is selling a wine cellar and the buyer said to him, I need the wine for cooking, then the seller is obligated to give him wine that is all of good quality. If one said that he is selling this particular wine cellar and the buyer said to him, I need the wine for cooking, then the seller is obligated to give him wine that is all of good quality, but the buyer accepts upon himself 10 barrels of souring wine in each 100 barrels purchased. If one said that he is selling this particular wine cellar, and the buyer did not say to him, I need the wine for cooking, then the seller may give to him the wine that is in his possession, even if it is of a quality that is sold in the shops, meaning is beginning to sour. Iboilahu Martev Shel Yayin v'lo amar lo lemikpa mai pligi bar v'achav ravina. Chad amar mekabel v'chad amar lo mekabel. A dilemma was raised before the sages. If one said that he is selling a wine cellar, a seller of wine cellars, a seller of cellars, a wine cellar, and the buyer did not say to him, I need the wine for cooking, what is the halacha? Rav Acha and Ravina disagree on this. One says the buyer must accept 10 barrels of sour wine for 100, and the other one says the buyer need not accept any barrels of sour wine. Man demar kabel daik David. Ikhtoli martev shayin lemachilach. Nois and noi. The Gemara explains the reasoning. One who says that the buyer must accept 10 barrels of sour wine per 100. Infers this, that a precise reading of the Batra is fitted as it teaches. If one says, I'm selling to you a wine cellar, then he is required to give him wine that is all of good quality. And we interpret this by as referring to a case where the buyer said to him, I need the wine for cooking. Stop talking. The Gemara explains the inference. The only reason that he must provide him with wine is that is all good quality, is that the buyer said to him that he needed it for cooking. By inference, where the buyer does not say to him, I need it for cooking, the buyer must accept 10 barrels of wine of sour wine per 100. And one who says that the buyer need not accept any barrels of sour wine infers that through this precise reading of the first Braita, as it teaches, if one sells, I'm selling to you a wine cellar, then he is required to give him wine that is all of good quality. And we interpret this Braita as referring to a case where he did not say to him, I need the wine for cooking, and even so the buyer need not accept any barrels of sour wine. The Gemara asks, but then, according to the one who infers his opinion through besides reading the Braita of Zvid, the first Braita poses a difficulty. The Gemara answers that according to his opinion, the Braita is incomplete, and this is what it is teaching. If one says, I'm selling to you a cellar of wine, then he is required to give him wine that is all of good quality. In what case is this statement said? It is said that in a case where the buyer said to him, I need the wine for cooking, by inference. Where the buyer did not say to him, I need the wine for cooking, the buyer must accept 10 barrels of sour wine per 100. And if one said that he is selling this particular wine cellar, and the buyer did not say to him, I need the wine for cooking, then one may give him the wine that is in his possession, even if it is not of a quality that is sold in the shops, meaning it is beginning to sour. It is beginning to sour, and the Laman Daik Mibraisa Kash de Ravzila Kimna. The Gemara asks that according to the one who infers his opinion, to be precise reading the Braita of Ravzvid poses a difficulty, as we interpreted it as referring to a case where the buyer said to him, I need the wine for cooking, and this opinion inferred that the buyer did not say to him, I need it for cooking, and the buyer must accept 10 barrels of sour wine per 100. Who hadin diafal gav the lo amar le'lemik lo kamekabel lo ayo dukimna diamar le'lemik van mishum nikashi zeazeh. The Gemara answers, the same is true according to all Braitot, that even when the buyer did not say to him, I need the wine for cooking, the buyer need not accept 10 barrels of sour wine. And there is no proof in brag that we interpret the bride as referring to a case where he said to him, I need it for cooking, since we did so only due to the difficulty of the contradiction between the ruling of the first Braita in the case where the seller specified that he was selling the cellar and the ruling of the Braita of Razvid in the same case where the seller specified he was selling the cellar. Due to that difficulty, the entire Braita was interpreted as referring to a case where the buyer said, I need the wine for cooking, despite the fact that in the case where he did not mention a specific seller, it makes no difference. It makes no difference whether he said so or not, whether or not he said so. Ah, they say a geffen here. Maybe they were Sfardi's. But if they're Ashkenaz, they say Hagafen. Apropos, wine that is sold in shops, the Gemara considers additional halachot pertaining to such wine. Yehuda says over wine of the same quality that is sold in the shops, one recites the standard blessing for wine, one to create the true of the vine, or priagafen. Despite the fact that such wine is not of the highest quality, it is still regarded as wine. Rabbi Chizda said, over wine that has formed a film that begins to sour, why do I need to recite the blessing for wine? Since it begins to sour, it is no longer regarded as wine. Instead, once you recite the generic blessing, recite over foods of lower importance. Shakoni yebidvaro, whose word all things came to be. Mes ve'al pas shif, pisa ve'al yain, shektim al ve'al tav shif brat suraso, omer shakoni yebidvaro. The Gemara raises an objection to Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. It is taught in a braita over bread that has become moldy, and over wine that has formed a film, and over a cooked dish that is spoiled, recites a blessing, by whose word all things came to be. Since those foods have partially spoiled, it is inappropriate to recite the specific blessings designated for each food in their fresh state. Amar Rav Zvid, Moed Rav Yehuda bepurtzama demizabdan akarnata. Rav Zvid said Rav Yehuda concedes that one does not recite the blessing of who creates the fruit of the vine on wine made from grape seeds that is sold on the street corners. It is to such significantly inferior wine that the Rice refers. Wine sold in the shops still has this taste and appearance of wine, so one should recite the standard blessing for wine. Amar le'abai Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, Ha'omar Rav Chizda, Ma keman tzviale omale mastisan yadana. Abaye said to Rav Yosef, this is the opinion of Rav Yehuda, and this is the opinion of Rav Chizda, in accordance with whose opinion does the master hold. Rav Yosef said to him, I know a braita from which it is possible to derive the halachi.